trouble. There just thought he had the 25 clear. He moved up the racetrack, and he obviously wasn't clear. That's just enough damage just to ruin your day. I mean, they'll get it fixed and run again, but the car won't be anything like it was.
You can imagine what's happening in downtown Emporia, Kansas right now, because, folks, we talk about a great effort today. Clint Bowyer.
The Richard Childress 07 team was jacked up on Jack Daniels. You could say this with or without the liquor sponsorship, because Dave Blaney and Phillipe Lopez performed like they were drunk every single week. For a Richard Childress racing team, an organization that won 7 championships with Dale Earnhardt, you were expected to be a championship contender, be up there every single week. Spending a good chunk of the season outside the top 30 in the driver's points is a failure on every metric imaginable. This prompted Richard Childress to release Dave Blaney after just 1 season. As Dave Blaney and other RCR drivers were underperforming expectations, Richard Childress attended various ARCA races throughout the year to scout out prospects for the team. For one of the Nashville races, he was starstruck by the kid driving Scott Traylor's Pontiac. Richard Childress envisioned potential out of this Emporia, Kansas body shop employee and decided to give him a call. But of course, this driver was the life of the party, and he almost thought this was a prank call but decided to take it anyway. And with that, the rest was history. 3 years later, Clint Bowyer would get to drive for Richard Childress in the top echelon of NASCAR. Bowyer was a prospect that did not get into a lot of crashes, and that was a desirable trait not only for Richard Childress, but also this 00 team in particular that struggled to finish better than where they started. His promotion would see Bowyer double up as a series regular in both Cup and the Busch Series, driving the famous Richard Childress number 2. While the Jack Daniels Cup team would get housed in the Cup shop and the AC Delco Busch team would be in the Busch shop, RCR would pull a Kevin Harvick 2001 and have Clint Bowyer's 2 crew chiefs work closely in tandem together, maximizing Clint Bowyer's potential in this challenging step forward. Man, it's gonna be a big task, but I feel like it's something we can handle and overcome within the next few years. As for the expectations, Richard Childress did not lower the bar. He was not going to lower the bar, even as Bowyer only had 1 Cup start to his name prior to this rookie season. I think you set your goals high. You set your goals to win races and be in the chase. With a rookie, you've got expectations. I think if we could be in the top 20 in the points and have us some good top 5s and top 10s out of it, if you're running good there, you're going to win the race. Clint Bowyer would begin his full-time career with a 6th place finish in the Daytona 500. 2 more top 15 finishes after that had the rookie off to a surprisingly hot start. He was living up to those bars, ranked 7th in the point standings and ahead of many heavy hitters such as Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Dale Jarrett, Ryan Newman, and Tony Stewart. But before we get ahead of ourselves and see Bowyer as a chase contender, a slew of drivers tracks in Atlanta, Bristol, and Martinsville were going to hurt Bowyer, and they did, sinking him all the way down to 16th in points. Now, it's not to say Bowyer was a bad driver, it's just he did not have the experience at those tracks in Cup, really hurt this team in the first few weeks. Meanwhile, he would get some relief with his first repeat stop being the Phoenix race in April, the site of his first ever NASCAR Cup Series start in the Sylvania 33. Now, in the Sylvania 07, this was a race where Bowyer would show what he could do. He could be that guy to learn and adapt quickly to change. In his return trip, he would lead 21 laps and finish 5th, putting him inside the top 12 and close to one of the coveted chase spots. 16 laps later, continuing from the week before, Clint Bowyer would DNF out of the race after getting collected in the big one. A massive crash triggered by, believe it or not, 5 wide at Talladega. I know Talladega's big, but that big? Yeah, these drivers paid the price for making that move. This crash would begin a summer slump of 6 finishes outside the top 15 in 7 races. On a glass half full, this 07 team was outpacing the mark set by Dave Blaney and Phillipe Lopez. However, when you look at it with a glass half empty, he was not on par with Kevin Harvick and Jeff Burton out of the chase picture by the time the countdown began. Now, that did not mean that this team was cooked or bound for a Robert Yates slide down the standings. I know you've seen a lot of content on this channel. That did not happen. In fact, it was quite the opposite. Feeling the heat of the summer in lobster country, Clint Bowyer's first trip to New Hampshire saw his team elect to roll the dice on strategy and stay out, leading 23 laps before Elliott Sadler chased him down, and with 3 laps to go, Bowyer's inexperience got the best of him, cutting up on Brian Vickers when he was not clear, dimming a great run he had going. We've also got to talk about Indianapolis, a tricky, tight-cornered oval that even some open-wheel greats have struggled in a stock car. In his first ever stock car race there, remember there were no Busch Series races, Truck Series races, it was Cup only, Clint Bowyer finished 4th. Meanwhile, for the Emporia, Kansas kid at least, the biggest race of his season was at the track just 100 miles away from where he grew up. The line at the 07 merchandise hauler was comparable to Dale Jr.'s and Jeff Gordon's. This kid looked to make a strong first impression, and he would do so, taking command of the race due to a 2-tire stop by the pit crew. However, he would need to be a good teammate to Jeff Burton, who needed to lead a lap in this race to pick up 5 important bonus points to continue his championship efforts. Bowyer, eyeing his first career win at his hometown, was not exactly warmed up to those team orders.
I'm gonna try, but I ain't losing 4 or 5 spots doing it. I mean, if he's got some distance, I'll do it, but if he ain't, I ain't doing it.
Fortunately, on the restart, Bowyer and Burton would separate themselves from the field, which allowed the RCR teammates to perfectly orchestrate this exchange. Ultimately, his 2 tires weren't a fair match for Jimmy Johnson on 4 tires. They also wouldn't be a fair match for a young, inexperienced rookie visiting the hot, slick Kansas Speedway for the first time, losing control just laps after getting usurped from the lead. We could all tell what Wally D would have done if he were on the box.
I wish I had 4.
The rear damage ruined the handling of this car, which ended his chances of victory, so the team would need to work some strategy as Gil Martin ended up besting numerous chasers to climb up to 9th place. One more great performance at Texas, earning him a top 5, gave him 11 top 10 finishes to close out his first year on the Nextel Cup Tour. A finish that spoke for itself, continuing the glass half empty, glass half full theme. On one hand, it was half empty because Kevin Harvick and Jeff Burton were both chasers. Denny Hamlin, a fellow rookie, won a few races and finished 3rd in a competitive car just like his. But then again, looking at the glass half full, the 07 team in 2005 with Dave Blaney was a tire fire. Clint Bowyer and Gil Martin stopped the bleeding by completing the 12th most laps of any team with minimal wrecks in this, for the most part, clean season. The pairing now set their sights on the game-changing 2007 season, one that would see operation costs go through the roof thanks to the bulky car of tomorrow, but this was something not to be stressed about with a team like Richard Childress Racing, plus a sold-out race car with Jack Daniels and DirecTV reprising their roles as primary sponsors. The car would get some prime TV time during the Daytona 500 as Clint Bowyer, involved in a last lap wreck, would finish the race on his roof. Topsy-turvy, upside down. Fortunately, Bowyer was able to walk away unscathed. Las Vegas, however, would test the team even more. After posting the fastest lap in practice, Bowyer would have to rally from a lap down to score a good points day, earning the most important bonus points for leading a lap. 36th after his black Monte Carlo stepped out from under him and ruined his entire race. Fortunately, Bowyer would have a tame spring to put him above the cut line for the newly expanded chase, which was now 12 drivers. And that would lead into the Southern 500 as Bowyer would score his first ever pole award, locking him into one exhibition race. Now he set his sights on a win to lock him into the other. I got into the Bud Shootout, now I've got to get in the All-Star race. Maybe this is the weekend I get them both. That would not quite be the case for Bowyer. Though he would lead the first 16 laps of the race, his paper-thin resume at Darlington was no match for the master, the guy that has tamed Darlington one too many times, that being Jeff Gordon. Clint Bowyer instead would carry the torch for Richard Childress Racing with a 9th place effort in this race, and in the first third of the season, Bowyer already had 5 top 10 finishes and had a 139-point surplus over 13th place Ryan Newman. Though the 07 team was comfortable in their own beds, it would be a struggle for homecoming as Clint Bowyer would fail to make the NASCAR All-Star race for the 2nd year in a row, and for the 600 he would have to start 41st due to a practice crash, putting him mid-pack, also known as the Eye of the Storm in NASCAR. The Charlotte Dega Big One hurt his Monte Carlo's abilities to maximize its speed and perform how it was set up in practice, forcing him to finish 33 laps off the pace in the 29th position. A quiet June had him still above the chase cut line, but he needed that race to make a statement. Clint Bowyer entered the 2007 Pepsi 400 with the #1 priority of finishing the race on all 4 tires instead of his roof. His strong second priority? Win the race, which would be the first of his NASCAR Cup Series career. And Gil Martin, the Fab Shop, and the Engine Shop, they would give him the dominant car of the night. Bowyer led a career-high 55 laps and was in position to send off the Monte Carlo at Daytona with a victory. Nothing was going to stop the Midwestern boy from winning, then planning the biggest block party the state of Kansas has ever seen. And there was no way he was going to give this up based on his radio.
Last words to the team a moment ago, we're going to win this thing. Nobody's getting by us.
See him already making a move.
Some blocking there, but Bowyer couldn't pull that off.
There's Casey making a move on the outside, Casey Mears.
With help from a teammate behind him, Jimmy Johnson.
Yep.
What a heartbreaker. Clint Bowyer would suffer an ignition box failure on the restart, getting freight trained by the Hendrick Motorsports Express and out of contention. Now, while he did finish right side up, that and his 7th place finish were no match for the bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey to alleviate the pain of coming so close yet so far away from your first Cup Series win. However, in the big picture, he had a good points night to help him bounce back from a 37th place finish at New Hampshire. Something that would help him out, as with 1 race remaining, Bowyer sat 166 points ahead of 13th place Dale Earnhardt Jr. for a coveted spot in the chase. Entering the final race in Richmond, Clint Bowyer had a challenging task ahead of him. He would need to do something that took so long and such a magnificent amount of effort on that evening to solidify his spot in the chase. It was going to be a long night.
As Jimmy Johnson leads him down to the green flag at Richmond, Virginia.
There it is. Yes, just by driving all the way out to Richmond to start the race, Clint Bowyer clinched his spot in the 2007 chase for the Nextel Cup. In one critical area, Bowyer stood out compared to the other 11 chasers. He was the only one without a win. A lot of NASCAR fans did not think he belonged. They were thinking, this Clint Bowyer guy, we've got Dale Jr., Ryan Newman, Casey Kane, so many big names. Why is Clint Bowyer here of all drivers? And considering the New Hampshire was the first race, it looked like this underdog chase berth was going to be his only accomplishment on the season. I know Denny Hamlin doesn't have a thing for lobsters, but it's safe to say Clint Bowyer isn't too fond of Joe's Crab Shack either. In 3 Cup starts, his best finish was 24th. So it was expected that this team would be boiled alive, covered with garlic, and served with a basket of French fries. This team was cooked. Maybe not so much on pole day. Bowyer turned the fastest lap in lobster country to nab career pole number 2. Now, of course, this was just a time trial lap, as there is a distinct difference between having a fast car and a fast race car. Clint Bowyer, during Sunday's Sylvania 300, had a race car. An extremely few amount of drivers could challenge the Jack Daniel's 07 for the chase opener. Even the likes of Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart were still over a straightaway behind as the race creeped closer to its conclusion. As a driver that liked to hear his spotter, Mike Dillon talked to him constantly, as it was something soothing for Bowyer as he started to hear every little rattle and every small little vibration inside that race car. Kevin Harvick, being a good teammate, even suggested that Bowyer slow it down, which would be relayed to Bowyer by radio and something he would take to heart. For the 28-year-old, his dream was realized. By crossing the checkered flag, no longer was meeting Lisa Marie as a devoted fan of Elvis his #1 accomplishment.
Clint Bowyer, 28 years of age, realizing a dream. His 64th career start. He is 2 turns away from that first Cup victory.
Get your zone on, boys! Woohoo! Yes! Yes, yes!
Clint Bowyer made a statement by leading a career-high 222 laps to join the Kansas Jayhawks and the Kansas City Chiefs as major sports success stories from the Sunflower State. Now the question was, could he join those teams and win a championship? Unfortunately, Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson in 2007 were superhuman. Both legends performed at their absolute peak, and it was almost a bit unfair to Clint Bowyer. Despite an average finish of 8.1 in his first 9 chase races, Bowyer and the 07 team were mathematically eliminated from title contention before the season finale. He and Gil Martin would turn their sights to the Best of the Rest championship. Despite finishing 39th, Clint Bowyer clinched a 3rd place finish in the final standings, wrapping up a season that would be considered one of the best of his career and a 180 from his rookie season. Just over 2 years after his Cup debut, Bowyer was a winner and had turned around this 07 team completely. A car that was consistently labeled as the lame duck car, one that always played second fiddle to Kevin Harvick and Jeff Burton. And in this season, 2007, Bowyer bested both of them. Now obviously, the 2007 season is mostly remembered for just how dominant Hendrick Motorsports was. Nobody was going to hold a candle to the two Cup Series legends that did not have a noticeable flaw in sight that season. A storyline lost in this 2007 season is the headline that this was the year that put Clint Bowyer on the map. Truly a 180 in performance that would change he and Gil Martin's Cup careers forever. So anyways, this is Nathan for NRF Productions signing out, and just remember guys and gals, life's the beach and then you drive.